Welcome to another episode of To the Sky. With me, I have one of probably one of the most exciting people I would ever have on in this series, um, Chris Chris Wright. Um,
G'day. Hi.
yeah, uh, yeah. Can you please introduce yourself to the audience, please?
Well, I know Franz through school. We were just youngins going
Youngins.
through high school together.
Ah,
Um, and then after school ended, I went to do a Bachelor of Commerce and Marketing. And halfway through, I realized that wasn't really for me. And, I just had to finish the degree. And then I took up my passion, which I discovered later in my life, which is music. So I studied music and I graduated in that last year. And just been
congratulations.
trying to live the dream ever since. Oh, thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I guess that's one of the reason why I wanted to speak with Chris today is his passion for music, but a very specific part of music. Yeah, can you? I guess we'll cover that a little bit more into the show. But
Okay.
Chris, I really like to ask this everyone who comes on: are you always learning?
Yeah, obviously, yes. It's overwhelming in terms of how much there is to know in any domain. And I discovered that when I looked deeper into music.
Yeah.
I think I was a big case. I had a big case of, you may have heard of it, you probably have, the Dunning-Kruger effect. Have you
Sorry, I'm
heard of
quite
this?
unfamiliar, but yeah, you can go ahead and explain to us.
Oh, okay. I'll sum it up briefly. It's just when you first learn something, you feel like you know everything. You haven't really seen the full scope of what there is to
Right,
learn.
right,
And
right.
then you go, oh, I'm great. I've picked this up so fast. I'm fantastic. Then when you start to really learn stuff, you realize there's just so much you don't know. And then you start to get really down about it. And
Yeah,
then when you actually become a bit of an expert, your confidence rises back up in that field again.
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, it's quite exciting. I think especially when it comes to anything creative, people tend to think or feel that when it comes to anything creative that it's easy or you're just doing things and it's not necessarily hard work, which I think is probably kind of sad. Like I have a lot of uh you know people have done graphics design and graphics work. They think that they've done their project or their logo in like over 3 hours, whereas they could have done anywhere between like 30 to 50 hours of work, for that single person, because people tend to kind of downplay it. And I think that it's probably the same, just how much effort and how much talent actually people give or commit to when they're pursuing something like music. Uh,
There's a stigma around. So sorry, Franz. There's a,
yeah,
there's a
yeah,
stigma around creativity, and I feel like people just, oh, I'm not a creative type, or oh, I
yeah,
can't, I'll never be able to do that. But in reality, yes, it's inherently part of you. It comes from within, and yes, some people are more inclined to be creative. But
mm,
do you look at the great songwriters and their best songs? I don't know. The one that comes to mind is
yeah,
Bohemian Rhapsody
yeah.
or Stairway to Heaven. Do you think these guys wrote? They could have done that as their first attempt at being
No,
creative? Of course not. Of
no,
course, that's them honing their craft and getting to the point where
yeah,
they can create that. They were never going to create that in their first time or
yeah,
first 100 times. You know?
yeah. And I think there's just a lot of doubt when it comes to creativity. Um, you know, I'm not sure how it is like for you, but coming from an Asian household, right? If I say, maybe for me, I'm actually quite more lucky because my parents just, they said do whatever you want. But traditionally, for like some people in the Philippines, I know, if they said, oh, I want to become like a painter or something like this, no, it's not a career, or it's not considered, you know they think it's not high bar compared to like engineering or lawyer or science and doctor. And I'm kind of sad that it kind of fell that way.
You can never.
Yeah,
I mean, you don't have to pursue it as a career to uh, pursue it. It
yeah,
doesn't have to define you to be something that you do. In many ways, there is the culture of having somebody, your parents say, I want you to go into the fields that are financially successful
yeah,
rather than perhaps self-fulfilling.
yeah,
But having a lot of money when you're 40 might be a really nice thing as well. You don't know.
yeah.
I don't
But
know.
I like to think that's the beauty of creative careers, I guess. It's kind of similar to entrepreneurship, that it's a leap of faith. It's it's not an established path. The success of one director is not the same as the success of another director, and I think that's where people are quite apprehensive about this kind of career. But when it works, when you hit that, I don't know, number one song in the top 100, it's big. Like the payday is big. That's when it gets when all your problems go away, essentially. But then all this I'm hearing from, like, musicians about their demons of how to stay being successful, being to stay on the top of their game, I guess, is the probably terrifying part.
Well, I mean, you look at somebody who say they spend 5 to 6 years. I don't know. Actually, somebody comes to mind is Lord.
Mm,
She had all the time in the world before she blew up to make that first album. And when she did Royals and she got huge,
yeah,
then everybody goes, "Oh, I love this," and then a year later they're like, "Give me more. What's the next one?"
yeah,
And and that may have taken her 5 or 6 years. I don't know how long it took, but
yeah,
she had no pressure to release that. And besides, perhaps from her producers or
yeah,
the record label. But then all of a sudden you've got millions of people saying, "I want the next one," and it better be like the last one. It
yeah,
better be really good. And you're not just trying to make it for yourself at that point. You may be trying to make it with all that in mind. And you can.
yeah,
That's why you see. That's one of the most common things fans will say. "Oh, you got to listen to the older stuff. The older stuff's the really good stuff." That's so common, and I feel like that's the biggest part of it. Is either they just kind of run out of steam, or they're starting to adhere to the the pressures.
yeah. And I have a friend that who's really into heavy metal, and he tells me stories of apparently there was this old heavy metal band that was quite okay in their scene, but then they made a few hits that became pop, and then that's kind of pulling them away from their roots, and it's not necessarily where they wanted to go. Like, pop music was never really their intention, but their producers and everyone else around them saying, "Hey, this is where it goes." But like you mentioned, it's being pulled away from what you really wanted, or and causing rifts and causing problems within people.
As long as you're, I mean, some artists just want to change. Some artists constantly want to be trying something new. So say you're a
Right.
metal band and you're getting sick of doing metal and you don't want to be a one-trick pony,
Yeah.
then go and release a Britney Spears album.
Yeah. 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 I think it's good. Okay. I guess I kind of want to dive in to, I guess, to what you're focusing on now. So how's your music career going? I guess which aspect are you focusing on, and if you'd like to tell us what you've been working on.
Well, I've been, I don't just have, I've been trying for a long time to decide where I really sit on this music thing. Where
Right.
do I want to do the playing thing? Do I want to do the record label? Do I want to
Mm.
do a recording studio?
Right.
And to be honest, I'm still just interested in all of it. I love it all.
Yeah. That's fair.
What pays the bills, however, that's the biggest question. And it's challenging when you enter something, because I only got into my music heavily like 1920, so there were people who were well ahead of me in terms of not only skill but connections and
Right.
everything. So I've and still have a lot of catching up to do. However, that can also work in your benefit
Yeah.
because it means that you rally harder.
Yeah.
Um, I went and did a huge bunch of traveling after I graduated. I only got back just like a month before the first big lockdown,
Ah, I know.
and I'd been doing a few interviews and talking to a few people and lining up jobs for recording studios and
Yeah.
things, but the industry, at least in New Zealand, just went, and there's nothing at the moment. Only now are the gigs starting to come
Yeah.
back up again.
I'm sorry to hear
So
that. Can you, I guess, elaborate on what you were trying to apply for? I guess you said recording
mhm.
studios. Like, what kind of roles were like interesting you or drawing you?
Yeah, okay. Well, I had a job opportunity with a record producer. Also, and one with a promotion label. And there are lots of small startups in the country which are just looking for like an intern or something like that. And you got to
Right.
go in on the ground floor, man.
Yep.
Like if you don't work unpaid, so the next person in line
Yep.
will. you
Yeah.
know. So that is the challenging thing at 25, to look at this and go, okay, well, I've got bills to pay, but can
Yep.
I dedicate 50 hours a week unpaid for my passion? Um, and in the meantime, I found a job that fits. I used to work in the rock shops through
Mm.
university, and I've gone to work for more of like an online marketing department in their offices
Okay.
now. And I see that as a short-term gap
Mm.
for while I continue to learn and practice and build my skill set and continue emailing and meeting
Yeah.
people and trying, So I think, myself, like a lot of people, 2020 has become this really weird year where you just have to kind of get through it.
Yeah. Um, and probably like one of the things I've been trying to do with the series is just trying to create more connection, and at the very least, I'm trying to do my connection online. But I mean, for you, like trying to even reach out like physically is just closed. Right now we're currently in our second lockdown, but it's kind of rough how things turned out this way. But I think if there was one country who was gonna be okay, it could be New Zealand. It could be New Zealand. Hopefully, it doesn't last that long, and hopefully that we get back on our feet. And I'm really looking forward to hearing from what else you're working on. Do you want to talk about a project? That I imagine you worked on projects for your music during your time at university. Do you want to
Mhm.
speak about the project that you were particularly proud of, or quite happy to speak about? Yeah.
Oh yeah, cool. Yeah, so there was one called the Hit Single Project, which I was fortunate enough, just by dumb luck, to be able to do 3 times through uni. It was awesome.
Mm.
Where it was a small group of probably about 10 people, and we would get together and listen to submissions from local artists, and they would send through a demo of their song,
Right.
and we listened to it. It's usually quite rough. It's in the bathroom, or just them and a guitar or whatever,
Yeah.
and we listened to not necessarily how much we liked the song, but how much we could work with the song, to
Mm.
turn it into a hit single.
Okay.
And then the chosen artist would go to Roundhead Studios with us, which is it's Neil Finn's studio. If you know Neil Finn from Split Ends,
Mm.
um, he over in Newmarket, there's a big recording studio. It's massive,
Cool.
and they would go and get all these New Zealand session musicians in and record the thing. And it's really cool because it sounds like this demo, and then over the course of maybe about 40 hours, we've made it into this really, really glimmering,
Wow.
professionally produced song. And some of them made it on the radio, which is really cool to see.
It's pretty good. That's pretty cool. So I guess yeah, for this role you were trying out to be a producer or trying to be a
More
mixer,
like a, more like a, yeah, well, like an engineer,
an
yeah. So
engineer.
it's like recording engineer, studio engineer.
Mm.
That in itself, there's a lot of freelance. You can either go and work for a studio, which is quite tricky to land because there's very few going there. Most
Yep.
of them, I would say, are freelance. So
Mm.
you start, I'm pulling demos from musicians all the time, saying, "Hey, give me your stems because then I can mix them and send them back to you for free because then I'll keep one as my portfolio." So when
Yeah.
that's kind of how you have to start it.
That's it's actually pretty cool because whenever people are doing when they're mixing songs, right, they always tend to do the big hit. I actually like that you guys are trying to I guess trying to help people like you, trying to get into the music industry and trying to work with those guys as well, as opposed to just kind of leaving them in the dust, which is just
Well,
pretty
it's all
cool.
collaborative, like
Yeah.
musos everywhere know musos, especially in New Zealand.
Mm.
You know, the the connections that you'll find are crazy. Yeah.
Have you made a song though? I mean, we've spoken about your passions and the stuff you're working on, but have you been I don't know, been part of a band or
Yeah.
actually?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've never really found myself rooted in one long term with a band. I've done lots of, gigs on the side or
Mm.
fill in for somebody or do like lots of uni stuff.
Mm.
Um, and that's one thing I want to change. That's one thing that I've always tried because I play a variety of instruments and I like doing it by myself.
Mm.
Um, but I feel like I'm missing maybe the most fun aspect and maybe one of the most important aspects, which is actually getting a big group together and
Yeah.
forming a long term thing. So that's something I've got my eye on at the moment.
It's Actually, I want to speak about a couple of things. Actually, let's first start with Actually, yeah, you said that you play multiple instruments. What instruments do you play, or that you're particularly fond of at the moment?
The ones I like the most, I hope, and I'm not completely crap at, I would say guitar, bass, and drums are what
Okay.
I really work at. Um,
Mm,
Down the line, I want to learn more, but as we were discussing earlier, there's so much to
yeah.
learn. You know, just guitar alone, it just boggles me how much there is you could possibly learn, and in a lifetime, you'll never learn all. So I
Yep.
keep thinking I can't start keys because I've still got to learn all this on guitar. But you have to. It's difficult.
Do you want to name the bands that you were part of, or yeah, do you want to say what they were?
Yeah,
Yeah.
the name is the hardest part, man. The name is the hardest part. The name comes last. you know, you know, I always, whenever, I learned a long time ago just to jot things down when you hear an interesting phrase in a conversation, or you see something, or even just have an arbitrary thought that
Right.
kind of resonates with you, write it down because I've got this huge list of stuff, and may turn into a lyric, or it may turn into a band name, or it may just be nothing. And most
Mm,
of them are junk, but one or two of them are quite profound. And
yeah.
yeah, so I mean that's one way of doing it, but honestly, I think I would rather get a group of people together and decide on a band name then, because I could sit here and rattle off a name that's probably been used 1,000 times.
so so yeah, no, I mean it's pretty cool whenever I still hear people coming up with band names. Not particularly like there's some band names that I just wasn't particularly fond of, like I don't know how old they are, but like, so the Americas, Chicago, all of this are like places. I'm like, come up, it's the Police. Like, I don't know.
They used to be a lot more simple back then.
Yeah.
Well, at least to me, it sounds like they're all and you still see that today. You've got like the Black Keys and things like that. But
Mm.
you're seeing like ASAP Rocky. The first one that comes to mind. He's got a dollar sign in his name, and also like a rap thing. But they're definitely getting a bit more creative with their names now.
Mm.
Like, who is it? Anderson Paak or Anderson Park. I still don't know how
Mm.
you say his name. He's got a full stop. He's got Anderson full stop Pack. Like that. So why is there a full stop there? I don't know. But
It's style, Some people like
yeah.
mess with the capitalization of which letters in their name, so all those become part of it.
Mm.
I did like kind of want to go back when you mentioned jumping between bands. I guess like these were never serious bands that you were like super a part of, but what do you call it? When I looking as an audience looking into the life of a band, right? They don't usually last like lifetimes, right? They rarely ever do. Like, I mean, again, maybe specific ones I'm thinking about, but like the Beatles never stuck around forever. They had major problems, right? They
Mm.
had creative issues, and another one that maybe due to my parents bringing me, I'm a big fan of Simon and Garfunkel, and
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm pretty sure those guys are just like they can't stand each other at this point. But maybe they
Mm.
made up. But there was a time that they really did not want to work together anymore. But yeah, and
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's easy to focus on the negative, right? Like, when I say that in the nicest way.
mm,
It's easy to think, oh, bands break up all the time, but the brain does tend, at least for me, it tends to remember things like that and not really think, oh, those guys are still going. There are plenty of bands out there who still are going after
ah,
many, many years,
right,
and that it's like you get lockdown, right? I'm here with my family, and when everything comes together and you've got all these people stuck in a room for copious amounts of time,
right,
of course you're gonna start to get mad at each other.
mm,
Same goes for a band, I think. Especially when you have creative differences and you're starting to life is pulling you at the seams, and you've been
yep,
going for so long. Eventually, you might just, start to have a bit of a spat. Whether you can work through that or not, I don't know. But you see bands like,
yeah,
yeah, I mean, I know that the Beatles did break up before Lennon
yeah, passed
passed
away,
away, but
yeah,
yeah, but you look at a band like the Foo Fighters, or you look at Soundgarden, they were still going before
mm,
Cornell passed away. There's heaps of bands, and also they get back together down the line. I know that
yeah,
Rage Against the Machine recently did a comeback tour.
Yeah, I always wonder if
Yeah.
it was part of the plan, is like that comeback tour, because I know they haven't made a song the last like 30 years, but then they come together and they sold out like a I don't know, like a big
I think they
stadium.
always know it's on the
Yeah,
cards. Yeah, they say, no, yeah, if I run out of money, I can always go and do a comeback show with these guys.
pretty much like yeah, that's
Yeah, I
yeah.
think Black Sabbath were around for a long time too. I know they changed. I know they fired Ozzy Osbourne and brought him back. They have all this history, but
Mm.
yeah, they went for a long time. Yeah.
Um, do you have any people you look up to or like inspires
Oh,
you?
so many.
Yeah, can you like name a couple and kind of, I guess, why are you drawn to them? Hello.
First person who comes to mind.
Yeah.
You know, besides the obvious one, my father. I look and my mother. I look up both to them both usually, but I've got a lecturer who I worked with closely in university. His name is Jason Hull. He was just the nicest dude, and he
Well.
knew his stuff so much. He had such a sharp ear for things, and he was describing things, and I'm like, I can't hear what you're talking about. So,
Mm.
uh, just that level of skill, and while staying so humble, is just yeah. He was a guy I really admired, and so it was because I knew him in real life too. That was really cool.
Mm.
In terms of people that I don't know professionally,
Yeah.
I think the number one person who actually probably started my passion in music was when I first listened to the album Currents by Tame Impala. That
Mm.
was their big hit, but I didn't realize at the time that it was all just one guy, and he recorded all himself and did all the instruments. And I thought, man, you can make that by yourself. That's so cool. There's so much going on there.
Mm.
I should try and and that was getting the ball rolling in my head.
Yeah.
And but I'd be talking for an hour, man, if I talk about all the inspiration, because you
Yeah.
can either look at these people, who are above you as, oh, I'll never reach that, or they're just so much better than me, or you can
Mm.
look at it as, hey, they were once where I am at now,
Yep.
and it is just the only difference between me and them is a whole lot of time and work, you
Yep.
know.
I really love that idea. I love that how you approached their success compared to yours. Is that I
Yeah,
am, they are where I am now. They've experienced what I'm going through. Because that is the reason why I wanted to do this. That's why I really wanted to have you on and hear your experience, because I wanted to hear you when you're still on the grind. When I like to think it, I'm interviewing the people who will be, the next leaders, the next successful people, the next CEO, the next musical genius, the next Lady Gaga, the next, all of these successful people. And it's easy to interview them when they're successful, and it's hard to listen to them talking about it because they looks like they're so far away from that now. um, it's hard to listen when I don't know, Elon Musk is saying that, oh, that work hard, study hard, you need, do aeronautics, do space engineering, and
but like
you'll be
I
successful.
when you have you're the most successful person on the planet going, just follow your dreams,
Yeah,
man.
it's
And it's yeah, they hit the one in the billion, but or the one in the million maybe,
mm,
but
yeah,
they're still somebody who you can't take away from them. They did follow their dream, and yes, it worked out
yes,
for them, but it reaches a point where you're like, for some of them, you have to say, man, like they really worked for it and they
yeah,
got there,
yeah.
and there could have been a version of themselves that didn't. I think so. Sorry if I've cut you in your
No, no,
path
no, no,
on this,
that's
but
perfectly fine. Yeah.
it's something I've come to realize later on. Actually, Henry, he was the one who first told me about this concept, and I didn't even know it existed. But I was like, wow, this is me.
As in
Imposter
R.
syndrome.
Henry.
Yeah, so
Oh, okay, yeah,
Henry.
yeah.
Um, but imposter syndrome. Have you heard of imposter
Yes,
syndrome?
yes. Imposter
Yeah,
syndrome,
yeah.
tall poppy syndrome, all of those ones. Yeah.
No, I don't know if maybe it's called tall poppy syndrome. What I know about imposter syndrome, though, and correct me if I'm wrong on
Yeah.
this, but it's a feeling that you're never good enough, and
Mm,
it's a feeling that no matter how much work you put in, you're still faking it. You're not really who you are trying to
yeah.
be.
Yeah.
Um, and that is good. That kind of leads back to what I was saying about the brain focusing on the negative. It's easy for me to go, oh, I can't, shred the guitar at a certain speed because this guy on YouTube can do it. Why can't I do that?
Mm,
I'm really not a real guitarist,
mm,
but I can still play, and I can still play at maybe 2/3 of that speed.
yeah.
Um, and so I mean, it's difficult to combat when you realize that everybody has suffered at least one point in their life. Uh, it makes you realize, okay, you need to remember the positives about what you've
Yep.
been working towards,
Yep.
not just looking at the gap in front of you, but looking at what the ground you've covered already. Yeah.
The ability to look back, I think that's powerful. To the ability to see what I've come to, what I've worked towards to. One of the things that I got taught at uni is to do blogs. Write a couple of blogs, a couple times a week, and over time you have like a visual cue of how much you progressed over time. And for me, at the very least, for me personally, that is a very powerful way to me to validate that yes, I am growing. I am actually doing something meaningful. It's quite important for me to be able to validate my work, and that's one way that I have been successfully doing that. So yeah, I think imposter syndrome is I think it's a real issue. There's a it's what do you call it? It's people really work hard, but they don't want to. And maybe they don't want to, but they don't feel like they are deserving of that success or something, and it's kind of odd. I guess that's more of a tall poppy one. I feel like I'm kind of confusing them, but tall poppy is
Like you're better than everybody else, and like that's like the early stages of the Dunning Kruger effect, like where you're
yeah,
thinking,
yeah,
oh, I'm so great and I've picked this up so fast.
yeah.
But um,
It's
I feel like maybe it goes from tall poppy syndrome to imposter syndrome to purely being
yeah,
really good. Maybe that's the progress of it. I don't know, but
yeah. Well,
that seems to be what happened to me at least.
that's the thing. Progress to success is not a linear path. That I think that's the greatest
Progress to
illusion.
anything, man. Yeah,
Yeah,
progress to anything isn't linear.
yeah. It's I think that's why like it's crazy like when you hear stories of like Facebook or Microsoft, it looked like it was a straightforward path. It looks like a dropout to billionaire, like that. It looked so simple.
Of course.
It looks so easy. Why can't I do it? Kind of. It feels like that, which is those are I think I think I've heard it said those guys are the exceptions. They are really not the rule.
Oh well, look. One of the cooler ones I heard. I know it's a game that gets memed on a lot, but Angry Birds was
What?
Rovio's 52nd attempt at a game. 50. They were. I think their games. 51 of their games failed. Is what I read at least on the internet.
Right.
But you
Yeah.
can verify that on
Yeah.
Google because
Yeah.
this is just something I read.
Mm.
But yeah, so they imagine that resilience it would take if it's true to go for 51 attempts and fail and then go okay this time, and you don't know at 51 if the 52nd is going to be a success. Clearly it was in this case, but you would know that time.
Yeah. You don't know until you try. That's like the biggest thing. You don't know.
52 times.
Yeah. You don't know if
52nd
it's the
time's the charm.
52nd one or it's gonna be the 102nd one. But all you know is that you're gonna learn more, or you're gonna learn from what you did previously. That's like the most important one. And I think that regrowth cycle is probably a lot more important than people think. That learning and then not succeeding the way you wanted to, and then trying another thing and learning from it is such an important what do you call it, important lesson that people got to grasp, because I think people think too hard on the instant gratification. People want to put hard work in something. I've worked 30 hours in this for like the last month or something. I need to see the results right now. I need to see like a YouTube channel. I want to see the million hits right now. I'm not gonna wait 2 years until I slowly grow it naturally or whatever, right? And I think there is real value in patience and taking your time. Yeah.
That's the way our brains are wired, man. We all
Yep.
you want to get those dopamine receptors firing. You want to be
Yeah.
feeling the instant gratification, as you say.
Yeah.
I think part of growing up is realizing, okay, that's not going to happen.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. That's really true. Do you have any hobbies, Chris? Do you do anything besides music at the moment? What are you doing to,
Yeah,
to pass
I
the
mean,
time?
I was starting to get a bit of burnout. I was trying to
Mm,
practice, and I was like, I got to practice like 6 hours a day, and I burnt out. And
right.
I just think it's something that I realized I can't just dedicate my life. I need a more balanced life. So yeah, to answer your question, I did pick
Mm.
up more hobbies. I learned to draw during lockdown. I've
Wow.
really enjoyed cooking. Or learn to draw. I'm learning to draw. It's never.
Mm.
I can't say I can. I'm not a master of drawing.
Mm.
But and I I wanted to learn a language. I still love my football. You got
Mm,
my Liverpool FC stuff back here still. I still
right.
play that. So yeah, it's. I just wish I had more hours in the day to do them all.
That mindset is something I appreciate. When you start looking for more hours in the day, you're running out of hours because you're being, what do you call it? Being consumed by learning new things. Being able to take and grow. I think that's pretty powerful. But like you mentioned it briefly, but what language are you trying to learn? What language were you looking at?
Well, I dabbled with a few because, as I said earlier, I did my traveling, so I
Mm.
knew some girls from Germany, and they could speak English great, and they'd always speak in German without to tease me that I don't know what they're talking about. So I tried learning German, but realized that uh, it wasn't. I mean, I don't know. I just didn't really want to learn German. I wanted to learn Spanish
Mm.
because I thought that would take. I just don't have the time or maybe the skill to learn several languages quickly. So I wanted to learn Spanish because I feel like that could take me further than German in terms of just countries.
Right.
You could
Yeah.
go to Austria and Germany speaking German, but they speak English great already.
Mm.
Um, so maybe if I go to learn Spanish, I could go to both South America and to Spain.
Yeah. Hang out there for a couple of months. Hang out at the beach. All those.
What to Spain?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. That's that's pretty cool. I've always thought that being able to speak a second language was something that's pretty cool. I felt initially when I first came to New Zealand, I thought it was like the most unnecessary thing, and I tried so hard to speak English, and I tried real hard to to because I'm here now. I don't want to sound fobbish. That was like the big fear of mine when I first came here, but being able to speak too is pretty unique. I think, yeah, and it gives you a way to sneak away in the conversation with the other people, I guess. Are you open to new opportunities? Let's start from there. Like, I guess with your career
You
wise,
have to be, man. You
well,
have to be. I would.
mm, yeah.
I would. There's some buildings I would just sweep the floors at 4 a.m. for free just to be
Wow.
inside the building. There are some places I just do anything to work in. So, yeah, of course.
So yeah, because I usually host this series on LinkedIn, and hopefully I try to get people to see it. You would like to enter the music industry in any way possible. Is that correct?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think my determination is not in question. It's
Mm.
yeah. I mean, I hate to say there's always a bit of stroke and luck involved. Sometimes you just
Yep.
meet people, but you got to make your own luck at the same time. Um,
Yep.
and just keep going. I think 2020 has made things difficult on everybody, and you can sit here and get frustrated at it. You can sit here and go, "Oh,
Yep.
woe was me," but woe is everybody right now, and all we can do is our best. So, sorry, we're off on a tangent there, but yeah,
That's okay.
um, my yeah, I'm super determined to make it
That's good.
work.
I feel like you answered, but what would be your advice to your younger self? I guess when you fell in love from with music. Let's start from there to now. Yep.
Besides slapping him.
Yeah.
um,
What would be your advice to yourself back then?
okay, yeah, I'd say a lot, but don't don't be afraid to really put yourself out there. Don't be uh, don't because self. I found that something I only just quickly realized. Self critique can quickly become self hate, and
Yes. Yep.
I was critiquing myself all the time, and I'm not working hard enough. And yeah, to a degree, I wasn't working hard enough, but that was part of personal growth. I was never going to work as hard as I do now back then. I just wasn't that person yet, you
Mm.
know.
Mm.
Um, but besides giving him the tips that I know now to
Yeah.
work harder, because I just didn't know them then. I
Yeah.
would say don't beat yourself up too much. The things take time, and
Mm.
if you can study an hour a day, you're doing great. That's what I
Yep.
would say.
That's honestly that's pretty rocking advice. I think people get into that loop, that self-critiquing, like you said. Too many artists of mine refuses to. Sorry, too many artist friends of mine don't want to put their work up online because they think it's not good enough. But you don't,
Imposter syndrome, man.
yeah,
Yeah.
you don't find opportunities by your work hiding in your book. Like it needs to be out there. Somebody needs to recognize that you have talent and give you an opportunity. And I really try to push all my friends and my artist friends that they should just really just try to put yourself out there. And another beautiful thing about drawing, and I like to think as well, is that if you have like a 2 year book of your drawing, then that you've been moving online or something, you can see your growth as well. You can clearly say that
Mm.
your work now is much better than how it was back then. How quickly you process things, how you quickly worked. That's Thank you very much for that, Chris. That's wonderful advice. Is there a place where people can find you? Do you have Twitter, LinkedIn, or yeah? Where can we find you?
No, I'm not really. I'm kind of dark online. I've kind of deleted
Oh
partly more. I
no.
went through the surge, and I've got Facebook, obviously, as we're talking
Mm,
now, but I don't really
mm,
use it.
yep.
I went through this manic surge, like where I was. You've seen the movie Whiplash?
Yeah, yeah,
That's actually quite pertinent, I believe, to a lot of people trying to really improve on themselves. Right? They are both at the same time that student and the teacher.
yeah.
In terms of you're not good enough, and then the students going crazy trying to be better, and
Mm,
that was like that for me. So I made this huge purge of social medias where
right.
I was like, oh, I can't. I'm just spending too much time on Twitter. I'm spending too much time, so I just deleted all the
Okay.
apps. I don't use them, so not really. So that's something I need to work on. Is better social networking.
So I mean, again, I feel like that's important, especially in a time that we have to be social now. If you ever do come back, let us know. We will put it out there as well. It'll be part of our
Yeah, I'll probably do the
review.
cliche SoundCloud thing once I actually
Yep.
finish all my half finished work.
Yeah.
I'll go and actually make a proper SoundCloud and put them all up.
I would love to hear it as well. I think it'd be a good idea just to hear about it as well. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Chris. Thank you very much for your time. It was
No,
very awesome.
thank you for having me on your podcast,
Mm.
dude.